Okay. Hey, we're gonna go ahead and get things kicked off. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm gonna hand it over to Brendan ultimately to be our fearless moderator on everything, but I just wanted to take a moment and kind of go down the line and let everybody introduce themselves real quick.
Yeah, sure.
So,
Okay. So, hello, everyone. I'm Brendan Daly. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer for the City of San Diego. I also represent the San Diego Regional Cyber Lab and the San Diego CCOE Cyber Center of Excellence. And today I'll be moderating our panel discussion. I'm looking forward to a really interesting discussion today, and I will turn it over to our panelists to do intros.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Yadira Ruiz, and I am the Supervisor of Workforce Development at San Diego Workforce Partnership. I currently oversee a program called CyberHire, and that's what I'm here to talk about today.
Hey everyone, my name is Joseph Tompkins. I'm the Senior Manager of Talent Acquisition and Talent Development at Indus Technology. We're a small business, a defense contractor, 100% employee owned here in San Diego, providing IT, cybersecurity, and program management services to mainly the Navy.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sang Lin. I'm on the research team at the San Diego Regional EDC. We're an independently funded economic development nonprofit. And actually last year, my team worked on updating the 2023 Cybersecurity Economic Impact Report.
Great. And just real quick to everybody online, and here we are recording, so we can share this for anybody that wasn't able to attend. And if you are online and you have a question, please drop it in the chat. I'll be off camera over here monitoring the chat, and anybody here that has questions, we want to make it as open, warm, as collaborative as possible. So with that.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Okay, so I'm just gonna read off some information, just to kind of set the tone of the conversation. So according to the FBI, there's been more than 150% increase in cybercrime complaints across all industries over the past 5 years, totaling 37.4 billion in losses. And the global cost of a data breach, according to IBM, has climbed to over 4.45 million as of 2023. More than half of those costly attacks are aimed at small and medium-sized businesses, which are really the lifeblood of much of San Diego. Now pair that with the global shortage of cybersecurity professionals to thwart these attacks to the tune of 448,000 openings in the US and 5,000 here in the San Diego region, according to Cyberseek. And it becomes mission critical to address this workforce gap. The good news is that San Diego is leading the charge with more than 1,000 cyber firms in the region, including the Navy's Information Warfare Systems Command. This cluster accounts for more than 26,000 jobs and has a total economic impact of 4 billion annually, and that's equal to about 24 Comic-Cons. This collaborative ecosystem is developing new technology, defenses, and cyber warriors to combat the ever-evolving threat landscape. So let's tap into our robust expertise for a panel today and dive into some interesting topics around the cyber workforce in the San Diego region. And we'll jump right into it. So CCOE and EDC's 2023 San Diego Cybersecurity Economic Impact Study report that marks the 10-year anniversary of the research that launched CCOE illustrates that the importance of cybersecurity cannot be overstated, and that fast growth and resilience define a local cyber talent. San Diego's cyber talent pool has grown by nearly 10% since 2018, 5 times faster than all other occupations. And 50% of San Diego's workforce is diverse compared to 25% of the global workforce. So Sang, what do you attribute to this growth and diversity in San Diego, and how can we collectively continue to open the aperture to ensure inclusive, job-ready talent pipeline?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So I wanted to focus on the demand side, actually. So there's a broader trend going on. Cybersecurity attacks are becoming more costly year over year, especially in the US, where it's the most costly among all the countries globally. So that means companies need to equip themselves with cybersecurity professionals. This is also due in part to the IT/OT convergence, information technology and operational technology convergence. That's also making it more costly. So because of that, in San Diego specifically, we're seeing kind of cybersecurity kind of permeating throughout all industries. A decade ago, cybersecurity professionals were concentrated in two tech-related industries. But recently, last year, we saw cybersecurity professionals in almost every industry. We see architecture, engineering, healthcare having some sort of cybersecurity specialist or cybersecurity team. So that's increasing. So employers across the region are looking for cyber professionals, and that's increasing demand. That's what we see the growth in this cluster. On the diversity side, we're fortunate enough to live in a region where a binational region where we see more than half of the population being people of color. And so we're using that to our advantage. We're seeing that in the workforce. In terms of what we can do to kind of open that aperture, I would say leaning to that diversity even more. So we are diverse relative to other cities across the United States, but still it's the cybersecurity specific workforce is not representative of the population of San Diego. And so that will help increase and strengthen the talent pipeline if we lean into that diversity aspect.
Yeah, it's definitely welcome to see that trend that now there is more emphasis on having cybersecurity dedicated roles in organizations across the region. That's still a gap. That's something that the San Diego Regional Cyber Lab that I help run helps to address. We provide training and resources to smaller government agencies and organizations that may not have specific cybersecurity talent to get those skill sets up to par. And we're just going to keep working towards that. Okay, so on the flip side, demand for cyber talent far exceeds local supply in our region. Even with a 42% increase in the number of local cyber-related degrees and certificates conferred by universities and institutions since 2018, San Diego employers still cite talent shortages as their #1 pain point. Yadira, how can partnerships like CyberHire between academia and industry help bridge this gap?
Great question. So we can help bridge the gap by collaborating with employers to identify their workforce needs and with training providers to make sure that they address those needs so that when students go in to receive training, they are receiving the training that the employers are looking for. We also have to make sure that once the training is completed, students from those identified training providers can come to programs like CyberHire. And what we do is that we subsidize certification. So once they complete the training for like A+, N+, or an S+, we're able to subsidize, the money so they can get their exam, take the exam. We can even subsidize if they need a prep exam. Sometimes, it can be a little bit difficult. So we provide that type of support. Another thing that we do is we provide a job readiness support. So that means resume reviews, mock job interviews. And one of the things that we've also done with CyberHire is we have a business partnership specialist that she reaches out to the community employers to seek out entry-level jobs. And then we have hiring events that are tailored specifically for the students that come through CyberHire. So we have a hiring event where we have employers that are very aware that the people that are coming in have those entry-level skills and they're ready to hire. So they look over resumes, they interview on the spot, and then can make hiring decisions. So that's something that has been very successful in the CyberHire program. We also provide a paid work experience. So we subsidize the first 150 hours to an employer to give them an opportunity to do try before you buy. So somebody with entry-level skills that's never had an IT experience on the resume can come in, understand what the skills they've gathered in training, tell the employer, give me a chance. We'll pay for the first 150 hours, and that gives the opportunity to the job seeker to showcase their skills. And our goal is that 70% of the paid work experiences, we call them internships / paid work experiences, convert to long-term employment. So that's one of our goals, is to be able to provide long-term employment so job seekers really can get started successful, foot into their IT career.
What's that percentage again?
70%.
Okay, well, that's pretty good.
Yes.
That's really great.
Sorry, if 70% is the goal, Where are you guys at now?
Right now, we're about 60%.
Okay. Yeah, so as probably as many of us have experienced through the course of our career, especially when you're starting out, there's all this experience wanted, but how do you get it? So I think it's great that you guys are offering to bridge that gap. Thank you. Okay, so 2/3 of employers surveyed in the 2023 EIS study cited they have grown in recent years and project a 10% growth rate over next year. Joey, as Senior Manager of Talent Acquisition and Development of a local IT company, how was working with local organizations or programs like CyberHire helped Indus to fill the talent pipeline in light of current workforce challenges?
That's a good question. It's critical. It's critically important to have those relationships. You know, I think a LinkedIn study completed just the end of 2023 cited that upwards of 75% or 80% of the current market is passive talent. I'm sure there's been some challenges in the last 6 months as the market has developed, but for the most part, people are currently employed and they're happy where they are. So we're no longer, all of these companies are all fighting over the same folks who have the same jobs. So it's very interesting. And, you know, we have at Indus, we have 500 employees doing work in 9 different geographic locations internationally. So I've got 3 recruiters on my team, but we can really, even with all of our tools, we can only cover so much. And so being able to partner with local organizations that actually have pipelines of local talent, of folks coming up, is critical to bringing folks in the door that know the landscape, know the culture of the area that they're working within, and then can come in the door, hopefully trained to do that. We are a consultancy, so we don't build any widgets or any product for the Navy. All of the work that we do is services based, so very rarely can we hire totally green entry level talent. So it's been helpful to have folks that come in with some level of training, certification, educational requirements, past performance or experience. Super helpful.
Great, thank you. The 2023 EIS study also highlighted that more competitive compensation, increased diversity in recruitment, and thoughtful considerations of degree requirements are all strategies that can help San Diego lead in the cybersecurity innovation across the region and beyond. Sang, what creative approaches have you seen local businesses take to address these pain points, and how can industry help?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about Sharp Healthcare. So last year we interviewed them and they talked about how they were attempting to implement an apprenticeship program. I'm sure you guys are familiar with it, but it's a lot more common to see apprenticeships in skilled trades like plumbing and electrical work. Not so much in the tech world, especially cybersecurity. So Sharp Healthcare, with the talent shortage going on, wanted to kind of reconsider what it means to become a cyber professional. Do they really need a bachelor's degree? And so they really wanted to attempt to start this apprenticeship program because they wanted to start young. They wanted to hire someone that might have the skill and build them up rather than kind of going into possibly having someone with a somewhat related degree in cybersecurity or tech or something like that. They would rather build up to kind of combat this talent shortage. On the other side, there's a lot of organizations out there kind of working to expose individuals that are kind of underrepresented historically in the cybersecurity field. CCOE actually partnered with Girl Scouts San Diego. I think last month they had a workshop where a lot of Girl Scouts can earn cybersecurity badges. And so to them, you know, that's something they're kind of learning, they're just being exposed to it. But in the future, they are kind of more equipped to go into that field if they choose to be. Women have been historically underrepresented in tech and especially in cybersecurity. I believe it was 1 out of 4 cybersecurity professionals are a woman. So just having kind of that primed in them can potentially lead to more women entering kind of that field. Another organization I wanted to mention is NFAR, the National Coordination of Autism Research. They're focusing on kind of people with autism and equipping them with cybersecurity skills to help them enter the workforce. Autistic people are typically underserved in the workforce, especially in tech. So kind of just tapping into talent that's kind of this not seen or not potential cybersecurity specialist, but that will just strengthen the talent pipeline. There's more options, women, autistic people, people of color, just entering the workforce, and that just makes it better for San Diego.
That's great. Yeah, at the San Diego Regional Cyber Lab, we've hosted events in coordination with CCOE to actually reach out to some of those communities as well, and it's been pretty successful. Thanks for that. Okay, so even though there are thousands of open technology and cyber jobs, most of them require multiple years of experience, which makes it a real challenge for graduates. Yadira, can you share a few of your cyber hire student success stories that highlight the power of cyber apprenticeship student employee programs and upskilling the current workforce to help close the gaps in our region?
Absolutely. So the first person that comes to mind is a gentleman named Raven. Raven was one of our first cyber hire graduates and success. So he had a degree in sociology, but he always really loved computers, the IT, the whole thing. So he was having a hard time finding a job, and he's like, you know what, I'm going to switch careers. So he saw in the news, he saw a segment on cyber hire, because cyber hire was just starting up. So he was able to apply, enroll, go to get some training. And then once he finished his training, he came back to us and we were able to place him in a paid work experience. He was able to get hired by that employer, and it was the actual employer that we got through the EDC. It was Dispatch Tech. So the beautiful part about this relationship was that Dispatch Tech, the CEO was looking for, it was a small business, he was just starting out, so he was looking for talent. So he came to us, we were able to send Raven over there. I think Raven is somebody else, and he was so impressed by Raven. Aaron really put the time and just, taught him so many things. Raven talks about how he learned so much in the 4 months. It took him about 3 to 4 months to finish his 150 hours. And after he finished his hours, he was able to get a job, a full-time job. And then the cool thing about this relationship is that now every time that they need talent, they come to us. They have hosted over 15 interns, or people that they can just go and teach and show them for their 150 hours. And they have hired 5 full-time employees since we started a relationship with Dispatch Tech. So it just kind of shows Raven loves cyber hire. He talks about it. He's been a panel speaker for us at our workshops. He has been a great community member of the whole Pay It Forward. I mean, that's just one story, right? So he's great. We have another lady that came to, she was working in retail, and she was just kind of over it. She went to school, she got her A+ and N+, and we were able at San Diego Workforce to host an intern with our IT department. And the great thing about our IT department too is that we're able to just teach them, show them, different facets of the IT field. And she wasn't able to convert with San Diego Workforce, but we were able to, from the staff that trained her, and just from the cyber hire program, she attended workshops, she networked, and now she's working for the San Diego Police Department as in the IT field. So that was a pretty big step, going from working, in retail to coming to us, and now being able to have a full-time job that she's really proud of, and that she really sees it as a step up. So the opportunities for this 150-hour paid work experiences, even when they don't convert, it really gives them that step up to get into their next job. And that's what we've seen successful as well.
Wow, that's great all around. The transition between careers and then also the paying it forward. It's great to hear those success stories. Thank you. Joey, on the employer side, can you share any creative approaches Indus has taken to address some of our region's challenges in attracting talent? Like the lower pay scale and the higher cost of living of San Diego compared to pure metros?
Yeah, it's been a critical challenge for us.
I bet.
I think one of the you can call it positive opportunities coming out of COVID is realizing that work does not necessarily need to be done 5 days in an office environment, and so being able to have some sort of hybrid work environment has been helpful in folks being able to live in areas that may be a little bit more affordable. Fallbrook, Temecula, Marietta, that way. A lot of our employees currently live up there and they commute into the office a couple times a week. Within it specifically, we've really had to rely on really what our value proposition is to the market. we are 100% employee owned, which is an awesome benefit. We're privately held, and we're not publicly traded. And it's been something that's been inherent to our culture for I think we've been around for 25 years, and we've been partially employee owned for 21 of those. Last year on May 6th, we went 100% employee owned, so you're looking at an owner, which is pretty cool. Our CEO and president, he's got a funny saying that he says in front of the employees, he may not be able to make us millionaires, but he hopes to make us thousandaires. So it's really cool to see that level of investment and passion for the organization, channel up, from our most junior level admin to our most senior level executive, right? And we're all unified by the passion of the mission that we support for the Navy, but also because we are literally all in this together. There's a piece of the pie for everybody. And I think it's huge to be able to illustrate that to employees of, something like an ESOP account is like a traditional IRA, right? It's not quick cash that you can gain access to, but it's something that will continue to grow and grow as we grow. Totally free to the employees in addition to their wages, their benefits. And it's just really cool to talk to candidates about it. We just had one of our employees left after 15 years of service last year, and on his last day, he walked away with a check for almost $500,000. So it's just really cool that he can now, whether he wants to pay off his home or put that into a different account, that's totally his to deal with. So it's key for sure. And then, really putting the culture first and living the values of that culture. We are really unique in that we've got a really energetic and passionate leadership team that is I'll say they're very involved in a positive way. There's not micromanaging. They're very present. They're available. They want to be there for employees. They want to meet customers. They want to understand what the employee needs. And I think, when we travel around to support the employees, hearing how much they like seeing that visibility and understanding, it's just really locking them into what Indus is all about and where we're going. And I think that's something that's missing in a lot of organizations.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so as mentioned earlier, CCOE and EDC's 2023 Economic Impact Study marks the 10-year anniversary of research that launched CCOE. In that time, the region cybersecurity industry has grown from 100 to 1,000 cyber firms, with a 362 increase in regional economic impact. It's pretty impressive numbers. We've advanced new technologies like AI and machine learning, and grown the cyber workforce across industries. So to all the panelists, what do you think the next 10 years will look like in San Diego's collaborative cyber ecosystem, including key challenges and opportunities? And we can start with Sang.
So I know we all are aware of it, but I'll be remiss if I didn't mention San Diego's high cost of living. We're aware of the home price increases, hitting astronomical rates. But yeah, that's a big struggle that not only the cyber cluster is struggling with, but also every industry across the board in San Diego. It mainly impacts the talent that we are attempting to attract from other regions, but also homegrown talent. A UCSD grad coming out of college, they would like to stay in the region, but it's so expensive to live and stay here. They might have to choose another city, as a result. So that's something that I think that has been a challenge, and I think will be a challenge in the years to come. But also on a positive note, there is opportunity. One thing I wanted to mention was AI, artificial intelligence. That's been a big topic the last few years and still is now. A lot of people are scared of AI, mostly because they might be replacing people's jobs. And that might be true in some cases, but I think it's an opportunity for upskilling. So we did a report a couple years ago with cyber and AI, and actually a lot of employers reported that they will actually increase demand in cyber professionals in maybe more specific ways, like an AI specialist. So I think it's an opportunity for upskilling and also just increasing the amount of roles needed for a cyber team.
Yeah, interesting comments about AI. I think it's really important that it be viewed as an empowerment tool. And as we develop policy, we bake that into the policy, and that's something that we are working on at the city as well, and other organizations that we speak to. Okay, Joey.
Yeah, the first thing is that I think the largest challenge that gives me some anxiety is, we already have, as we discussed today, a shortage of qualified talent today and a skills gap. So I only foresee that growing with the demand signal growing, with the Navy here, with medical device, bioengineering, and the IT sectors that are all here in San Diego, it's only going to increase, right? So I'm hoping that, you know, collectively, all of us on this panel and local universities, you know, we can continue to upskill and make sure the talent is ready for that. You know, our director of IT and information security is big on saying it, you know, we've come to the day and age where security is no longer just IT or security's responsibility, it's everyone's responsibility. And a key challenge is right now despite it being 2024, there's still a very low level of cyber awareness, and just best practices. And, you know, unfortunately, people being targeted are typically like our older generations who may not even be used to what cyber means. You know, they just come from a different time, right? So, you know, that, and then ensuring that we're continuing to bake these skills and these teachings at, you know, all the way down to K through 12. Like, how can we start getting students involved when they're 5, 6, 7 years old? Like the Girl Scout event, it's an awesome event. I've been to it before. It's really, really cool. And, you know, this is our new reality, right? You know, AI, I think depending on the way you look at it, could be a challenge, could be an opportunity. I'm an optimist, so I like to see that there's going to be opportunity there. It will be able to help us. I think if we continue to identify, you know, ethical ways of maintaining it and making sure that there are policies built around that. And then, you know, finally, I think it might sound a little cliche, but I think that the biggest opportunity is for all of us in this room, who, you know, looking 10 years out, and on the call, of course, you know, we'll be needing to help mentor and grow the next generation of cyber leaders, right? And so being able to take what you know now and the experiences that you've had and being able to pay that forward, because, you know, if we identify the challenges that the difficulties there are to break into a market like this, how can we get ahead of those and fix those? Because the adversaries aren't going away. And so definitely a great question.
Yeah, couldn't agree more about the cybersecurity awareness. It's really should be across the entire organization at every level. We definitely drive that home as well, drive that point home as well, at the city. Okay, Yadira.
So a couple of things came to my mind. One of them is employer buy-in. So one of the challenges that we face at CyberHire is we do work with small to medium-sized businesses. And sometimes to get that employer to buy in to our entry-level job seekers has been a challenge, right? So sometimes they're looking for people with degrees or people with like more experience, you know, the whole experience thing always comes into play. So kind of like learning how can we change that perspective to give employers, like, what can we do to give employers a little bit of confidence, or like, hey, trust us, right? Like, trust that the people that we are bringing to the table are people that are talented, have the skills, and can do the work. So one of the ways that I can see more opportunity is by talking about what we can do at San Diego Workforce Partnership. So apart from the 150-hour paid work experience that we subsidize, we have the ability to do an OJT, which is on-the-job training. And this is an underutilized benefit that employers do not take advantage. And what we can do is we can pay up to 50% of an employee's wages for up to 6 months. So that's a savings of at least $10,000, right? So you would hire the employee for a year, and for the first 6 months, we can reimburse you 50% of the wage. So having these types of incentives and having more employers take advantage of that, I think will be an opportunity that moving forward, we can continue to let people know, and hopefully that will make it a little bit easier to kind of like, okay, we'll give the entry-level job seeker a chance. And then the other thing that I thought about was diversification. So I think sometimes when we think about diversity, we always think about usually gender and race. But what about diversity of thought? And I think, Sam, you mentioned, you know, partnering with community organizations like NFAR, like National Foundation of Autism Research, right? Where they are getting trained in cybersecurity. There is a need there and a desire to learn. We also at San Diego Workforce with the CyberHire program, we were able to partner with Able Disable. So community organizations that are training in cybersecurity, people that identify with disabilities. And then we also have a partnership with Hoover High School where we're training 10 high school seniors to learn about IT, right? And helping them get their A+ certification and paid work experience. So having those opportunities, not only just, you know, women and people of color, but also diversity of thought, people that come from different types of backgrounds that have those transferable skills. A lot of the students that come into cyber hire come from, they used to do something else and they want to transition into cybersecurity. So they bring a wealth of knowledge. So they may not have that experience that employers are looking for on their resume, but they definitely have that experience of the soft skills and transferable skills that you can't get, in the classroom. So yeah, that's how we can definitely look forward to diversify thought and diversify, changing the perspective from employers.
Yeah, that's a really great way to look at it. Diversity of thought, as you mentioned, probably is often overlooked, but that's really important. And it's a creative way to kind of, introduce those types of people into, into the environment where employers would need them. So, yeah, thank you for that. All right, well, that's the end of the panel discussion questions. I'd like to thank our panelists today. They did an awesome job. And I'll turn it over to Dave for any closing remarks and we can do a Q&A.
It just one of the questions that I had was because we've got several people online as well as with here. But if somebody's looking for these resources as an employee or an employer, what's the best way for them to contact each of you?
So our website, workforce.org, there is you can click on employers and then it gives you access to how to reach us. And if you click there, we will definitely get back to you.
Yeah, so again, I work for Indus Technology. Our homepage is industechnology.com. From there, we list all of our open careers as well as a link to our talent acquisition distro, talent at industechnology.com. That'll go to myself and all of my three recruiters. So one of us, we'll be able to respond. Any questions that you may have, just want review of the resume. If you're interested in opportunities, we're happy to discuss further.
Yeah, likewise, EDC's webpage is sandiegobusiness.org. We have several programs. I think the most relevant one would probably be Advancing San Diego, which is mainly for employers. And Advancing San Diego attempts to connect employers and academia, universities to kind of align their interests. So that's of interest, it's on the website.
And likewise, the San Diego Regional Cyber Lab, sandiego.gov/cyberlab, or just Google it, learn more about us and feel free to reach out or book an appointment to come in and check out the lab. Okay, well, thank you again, panelists, and thank you, CCOE, and for all the work being done in the local region. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Got a question in the back?
Yes, maybe I didn't catch you correctly. You work for workforce.com or for cybercrime?
So the company that I work for is San Diego Workforce Partnership, and our website is workforce.org. And the program that I run is called Cyber Hire.
So the fundings are coming from the government, from the state, or from the city.
So we actually apply for grants and we're grant funded. Mhm.
So in your experience, do you don't see a barrier for graduated students if they came from psychology or sociology or marketing, any background that is not cyber or engineering, something like that? You don't see a barrier in that in your experience?
So in my experience, people that come from those backgrounds and are interested in learning about it have usually the best success into getting a job. Just because having like that work experience and having that work background really helps. And with cybersecurity, somebody said one time, it's like a universe, right? And then like each, your first step is like IT, learning about, networking and how computers work. So just getting your first foot in the door with that, those types of skills from different, backgrounds helps so much. So yeah, as long as you're willing to learn something new, absolutely encourage to do it.
And you just focus in students just graduated, or also people that are already 10 years in another?
So in order to be able to come into Cyber Hire, you would have to attend one of the training providers that we have collaborated with, which is National University, San Diego City College, San Diego Continuum of Education, NFAR. And I believe that's it. So it's people that go to those training providers And then they get trained because they're the ones that have talked to the employers, that have an understanding of what is it that the employers are looking for. So they're teaching those skills. Then once they're graduated or almost done graduating or finish their certifications, they can come to us.
Yeah, I'll just add a little bit to what Yadira stated. Cybersecurity, while most of us think of it as super technical, and there is certainly a need for analysts and engineers, it's a broad spectrum. We mentioned cybersecurity awareness, soft skills like that, being able to educate people is an important component of it. Writing effective policy is another area. So it's not necessarily laser focused on the technical part. While that's certainly important to have that background, but there's other areas in cybersecurity that could benefit from other skill sets.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's a bit of a follow-on question to that, and maybe this is more from like a recruiting or talent acquisition perspective. And in my network, I know a lot of career changes, right? I think it's just where I'm at in my career, but a lot of people trying to transition into cyber. You know, I have people contacting me all the time, and I'm not really sure what the best advice is to give them, right? Because there, you know, so many people can't get past the gatekeeper, and they, you know, their resume doesn't have the keywords, right? So what, do you have any advice like that I could pass along
Yeah.
to those
Yeah.
folks? But
The $1 million question for sure.
Yeah.
I know it's, yeah, I mean, just kind of bouncing off that point, I mean, the majority of our positions that I hire for are more, compliance and policy based, but we do highly technical work in other markets as well, but here in San Diego, it's much more auditing where, you know, something like soft skills, you know, a really strong analytical, mindset, you know, being, I'll say that customer service mentality is a lot more important necessary than some of the learned skills, right? So, as someone trying to transition into cyber, I mean, my first thing is, it's already been said, cyber is a huge universe, right? Cyber could mean a million different things. So does that mean policy to you? Does it mean networking, or you want to be an information security engineer? Do you want to be a pen tester? I think the first part is really identifying what energizes you and where you want to go. And some of the advice I have to candidates is, first of all, I'm a huge proponent. I come from small business, so I love, you know, touting small business. I think that there's a lot more opportunity to learn and grow when you've had to wear a couple of different hats. And I've found that leaders of those types of organizations are more willing to bring people along the way and train them up, versus if you go, big businesses do awesome work for our society. It's just, if you're going to be hired into a cybersecurity engineer role, you're going to be expected to show up that day with whatever the requirements are, right? I also, you know, I think that sometimes we can get hung up on titles and you know, especially in a place like San Diego, it's a challenging market. It's expensive, right? But I've had a lot of success in bringing folks on, you know, maybe you don't meet the qualifications for what we would term a cybersecurity analyst, but you know, we've got an opening as a technical writer, or like an IT support technician, or a NOC analyst that we can bring you in. Let's put you on a plan, mentor you up, get you some certs under your belt. We've got a tuition assistance benefit, link you up with some of our partners in industry, right? Where we can start to transition you into that. And so that's how I came up. I'm not a cybersecurity engineer or technical person by trade. I've learned a lot of this at a 50,000 foot overview, but you know, my organization took a chance on me and I was able to rise up. So hopefully that's helpful. I know it's a little more abstract.
There's good nuggets there,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's great, thank
Yeah.
you.
Another question in the back.
Yeah, actually, kind of continuing along the same, excuse me, course. The one thing that gets me is, I have a small panel here who has some great things, talent to address, cyber hire. But in general, when somebody starts looking for a job, where do they go? LinkedIn, Indeed, et cetera. Outreach, and this is a massive issue that goes forward. So how do you, as I see having great concepts, how do you expand into that outreach? Because employers will go first to them rather than straight to cyber hire, because they don't know you. Along with continuing those lines, as you said, Joe, there's 1,000 cyber firms. How many non-cyber companies are out in the San Diego area? I don't know the number, but many of them are non-IT. And so they're not going to be willing, really aren't, because I actually have a couple of clients right now that do not understand when you say, I need a cyber person. And they've got this thing, it's gotta be whatever you see on television, you know, the guy who can automatically start scrolling away code like crazy. But this is what I think is part of the issue we're facing in the expectation management deal. One of my clients, I'm actually what you are, Joe, I'm sorry, I'm a policy writer, you know, we don't do anything. On the other hand, you got the technical guys running in, doing red teaming. at the far, and this exposes the cost that, the growth industry into medical and the medical devices and everything. And now the IRS has gotten themselves into this with the new WISP program, Written Information Security Plan. So you got so many people here and, you know, you're focusing in a small group. How do you get this out to manage the expectations, manage the definition of need? You didn't mention USD. You didn't mention SDSU as part of your outreach program. Why not? UCFD was mentioned, but these are three of the biggest schools here that teach cyber engineering, cyber leadership. Why haven't you hit those? Rhetorical. But I mean, I think I'm just trying to explain or bring to the continuing problem here is getting this out is such a problem. How do we, this audience, work with you to, I'm gonna say, take on LinkedIn? Frankly, I have to shut it down to become useless. Personal opinion, not to express only personal opinions of Jack Creek. Okay, so legally we're covered. But what do we do? How do we move forward as a collective group here to help put out everything that you have talked about these past few days? 150 hours is great. I know clients that are not IT that will not do that. They're small. They're fighting the cost necessary to achieve the CMMC DoD requirements. They are screaming over costs. Or they want to pay $20 an hour. Any comments?
Can I answer some of that,
Sure.
maybe, right? So from a background, just kind of introduce myself so you understand where I'm coming from with that. I've carried the CIO title 3 times, twice in healthcare, 1 time in a logistics firm, VP of technology, basically the CIO for a pharmaceutical company here in San Diego. I think and I've done this for 30 years, right? So I've seen the beginnings of this, right? When the issue was, I don't want to pay for antivirus software, why do I need it? You know, if I stick a Unix box out there and keep, you know.
If I may interrupt, even as back as Apple will never be.
Yeah, absolutely, right? But even before that, so the key piece here is this, right? In the first place, part of the discussion has to be, do you have a separate cybersecurity budget? That was a conversation we had in companies, larger companies, 30 years ago, right? Today, we have to have this conversation in companies that have 20 employees. Because they need to understand that cybersecurity and IT, I mean, this goes back to, you can have this conversation all day long, security is everybody's business, right? But that also means security is nobody's business because, you know, if everybody's responsible, nobody's responsible, you know? And so is there a separate budget? And once you have a separate budget, then you can start having conversations of what fits that budget. I mean, we do this in you know, I've had that one of my organizations had 50 people working for me just on the technical side. And if I had to go and justify my budget as a CIO, I had to go in there and say, this is what I'm spending it on, right? And I've had instances where the controller would come to me and pull a list of all the tools we use and said, why are you using these tools, right? These things seem to be doing the same thing, right? So go through and really make that point, pull the cybersecurity insurance application forms that you have, because they will actually ask that question and go and sit down with the CFO and go through that whole mess. Because ultimately, technology and security serves a purpose, right? And that's a business purpose. So you cannot answer these questions until you have the business side of the thing addressed. And that's where we typically make the mistake, right? We don't address that, you know, we go in and we say, you know, I need this person, but all of that is noise that it gets lost, right? So by the time we're sitting with a panel here that does a great job, and by the way, Infor is an absolutely fantastic organization, right? to bring this kind of thing in. Name change coming, by the way, you're gonna have to get used to the new label there. The point is, people need education. And that needs to be done at the business level. It's not gonna be done in this field, right? It's gonna be done, you going to, the CIO for the city of San Diego, right? And having that conversation and to other department heads and so forth. That's the big piece. And take the technical terms out of it, right? Don't make it look like it's a separate industry, right? It's security, security, security. And, it's ultimately, the whole thing around, what am I doing with compliance? And teaching that compliance and security are related, but they're not the same. You're gonna have to basically give the speech around that over and over and over.
If I may, because I've actually used that as an exact example. You go to the CFO, I want money next year, I want more money, what you do with it. But, even though it's getting better, from the business point of view, you've got to hit them with ROI. I've had some people say they look at cyber as a sunk cost, and I hate sunk costs, as opposed to cost of doing business. So again, to complement what you just said, let's go to that same point about how do we move forward with this? You said again, there are 1,000 cybersecurity firms out there. If there are 1,000 cybersecurity firms out there who are functioning, then how do we come up with we are X numbers short? Are they not meeting their goals, or are all these other companies looking for 10% higher, 20% higher, and are they willing to put that into the budget as a line item? Now, I've worked for the Navy, and I have seen how they attack something that doesn't put steel on the water or a round down range. Now, you can't touch it, we don't like it. And like you, I've worked in the industry for 40, 50 years. My joke is I have yet to actually see an electron. I've been bit by several, but I've yet to see one. So perception, explanation, budgeting, non-technical, oh, I've got this. I agree with you. I've got this cert, I've got that cert, I've got this cert, I've done this pen testing all over the place. Yeah, but I build widgets. What does it mean? How do I effectively understand the cost to my business for either, I'll pick on the CMMC for one moment. Under Secretary Lloyd stated, if you do not get it, you will run the risk of never working for the government again, unless you have the appropriate certification. That is one hell of an incentive to a lot of companies. And I have a 25-person company client, up to a bone. Millions of dollars. So, yeah, the outreach is significant. The technical stuff you talked about is awesome, really is. But collectively as a group, how do we move this attitude forward to explain, and personal thing, because I'm seeing it again, away from the degree. Not that I don't think degrees are good, I've got a few, but, it's only 3 letters, and what the heck does it mean? I also have somebody who only graduated high school, is now one of the senior security people for a national health company. So how do we really capitalize on what we need? How do we budget it? How do we explain to management that this is what they actually need to do? And then how do we create an outreach program like that? And I'm gonna throw it on you guys.
So I'll jump in on that. So one of the reasons we started the San Diego Regional Cyber Lab is because we certainly identified those gaps, especially in smaller government agencies. But we've expanded to private sector too, where there's no dedicated cyber staff. It's always, generally considered a part of IT when it's not really. It should be its own separate line item in the budget. Interesting enough, one of the biggest tools that we're excited about will be releasing pretty soon, that we did in partnership with CCOE, Amazon Web Services, and Cal Poly's Digital Transformation Hub, is called My eCISO. We should be releasing press on that soon. But basically, it's an LLM, it's an AI, a chatbot that you can sit down and have, well, you don't have to sit down, but it's a virtual chatbot, and you can have a conversation with a CISO, a virtual CISO that's trained to be a specialist on the NIST 1.1 risk management framework. So we'll have a series of conversational questions. You don't have to be technical to have a conversation with it. It'll ask you some questions about your by your organization, the size, what you do. It can go probe deeper, but at the end of the conversation, it'll generate a report for you, give you a report card based on the NIST framework. And you can use that to make a plan. You can use that to justify budget. You can take it to your CIO saying, listen, I just spoke to someone that's a virtual expert on this framework, and this is what they're recommending for us. So we see a lot of use for that tool, and we're really excited to have that out there. We'll be releasing that pretty soon, but that's one way we're trying to address it, make it easy.
Except you're stealing my job now.
Me too. You think I like calling it my system?
I think the key is, if you start looking at common security framework, like HITRUST, that's we use. That's exactly what this does. You put your parameters in it, it tells you what, requirements are out there, regulatory and so forth, right? And it tells you what to do. And there's no arguing with that either at the end of the day. So it does help with that. The question is, can you present it properly?
Right, and having a tool that may help you make that translate, like we're trying to accomplish with the CISO, I think could be a big benefit in that area.
I just want to comment to something you mentioned. So you're like, why are we that, the outreach for like programs like cyber hire? And I think one of our limitations is funding, right? It always comes down to money. So we only have limited funding because we can only help limited, people every year because that's what the funding provides. So this constant search for money is an ongoing thing that we need to do. And if we don't have it, we can't go out there and tell the whole world about it. So we have to be strategic about where we're partnering with, who we're partnering with, because it's all tied to funding, limitations.
And again, just to reiterate, I think it's a great program, and I do recognize that we've been talking about, it's a month, and
Yeah,
it's a outreach, and it's a media exploitation type of a deal that could possibly generate more funds or
yeah.
just get it going.
But the opportunity lies with, employer buy-in, like you were saying, right? If we can get employers to really buy into this idea that we can provide talent that has the training and the skills that you need, that's what can make the biggest difference. So funding, programs like cyber hire, or getting employers to maybe they take some part of a cost. That's how we can move forward. And we're hoping that by the more that we talk about programs like cyber hire, and you guys can see success stories about what they're doing, it will, build that trust and be like, all right, this does work.
Yeah, a lot to unpack. But I think, again, I'm an optimist, so I do think, it's not gonna change overnight. It's gonna take all of us, years to really make that progress, but the microtransactions that you make when you take the lessons that maybe we discussed up here, or some of the things that you've heard, and bring that to your network and your clients, I think that can help make waves. It's unfortunate, but there's probably a lot of the companies, especially those that are choosing not to invest in IT, are probably gonna have to learn the lesson the hard way, right? I think the biggest benefit to fixing like the cost issue has been that, CFOs and other, financial, leaders in organizations are having to come to face there is a serious cost to not having strong cyber posture, right? You ransomware issues, and you get that bill, and now we have a whole insurance market based up for it. So I don't want to harp on it, but you brought up as well, there's all these people applying for jobs. There's not necessarily a shortage of talent. There's a shortage of qualified talent with the right skills. We're getting tens, hundreds of resumes a day just for one position, but they just lack the skills that we need. So that's an area that we, as partners, need to fix, right? But the biggest skill gap I can see that I think will actually move cybersecurity forward and really make it a focus for executives as they put their strategy out there is soft skills, and the ability for leaders in the IT community to come forward and to explain to those from the finance side that are only looking at something through a financial lens, what is the cost associated with this? How can I meet you halfway? And then how can I train you on, these are what the reason we have these different tools and technologies is because they do X, Y, and Z. I think right now we're very siloed, and we're seeing that move closer where our IT teams and our finance teams work very, very closely. So hopefully we're moving in the right direction. But being able to explain that, understand your stakeholder, and come ready to discuss things like ROI and how does the CFO speak, right? That doesn't necessarily come naturally, maybe to someone who's looking at the risk impact to the system. But that's where we need to be.
That's a great point. I wanted to go back on your, you mentioned, something about the talent shortage and why that's there. I think I want to add a couple things to that. So most companies in San Diego, at least cybersecurity, they mentioned that work experience and certifications are much more important than bachelor's degrees. Like you mentioned, it's not that important. But talking with some of the higher executives, they mentioned it's still something that they have to put bachelor's degree required or preferred. If it's preferred, it's probably going to be required. I think that's a big issue, and it's a huge turnoff for a lot of people that are applying. They see that and they might think they have the skills to do the job, but they don't have the bachelor's degree. And maybe someone applying that have a bachelor's degree in something totally unrelated, it's not important, but they need to check that box of, I need a bachelor's degree. I think so that's one issue. So I think where industry can kind of help with that is kind of reconsidering what that means. Like what does it mean to be a cybersecurity professional? I know there's like a huge world, bunch of different occupations in cybersecurity. So honing down on what people actually need, and possibly eliminating kind of things that are necessary to do the role.
Needs versus want.
Exactly, yeah.
Man, we talked about some of things. All of those. I'm Shannon. I've been a CIO and a CISO for almost 20 years. Recently left my company that I helped build to develop my own. But just, to throw back, I mean, I've had to hire countless number of cybersecurity analysts, technical people, compliance people, and can, relate to everything everybody said, what do you find these people? I mean, for me, one big boom was the fact that we ran large scale federal programs that are compliant to 853. And 853 is just going to tell you exactly what your security program is going to be. And that's going to be broken down between your compliance side, it's going to be broken down by your justice side. And what I found is, running these large programs, we have thousands of generalist employees that are doing PII review, and we did fraud detection, government payments. We run these huge programs like during COVID when government was giving away billions of dollars. We ran these programs that were, people are applying for all this stuff, and so we have thousands of people just reviewing all these applications. I, in a second, could just put out a general note that we're looking for somebody in cybersecurity, and I get, I have 1,000 employees, I get 20 people applying that have no general skill at all. But I found, especially on the compliance side, if you get strong management that know how to manage somebody to 853, you can take anybody with a brain, it doesn't have to have a degree or whatever, and you can teach them a lot of the compliance rules. I mean, like IAM, any kind of help desk, any kind of
Training control.
awareness, I mean, that as long as they've got that soft skill and they've got that aptitude, and a lot of them just see cyber and they know they're going to make more money. Because we'd be paying these people $25 an hour, a cybersecurity role is going to pay $30 an hour, and it has that future built in. And so I got most of my best hires just by offering that brighter future, to people. And it's and I mean, it all worked in the internal logic of my company because, we had 8,000 people we could pull from at any given time into the space. So it was easier. I didn't have to go on the street. You guys are trying to find people to come. So on the technical side, I almost always found everybody, because I think everybody knows I've worked in this industry for any amount of time. Cybersecurity, all these jobs are relatively new. I mean, but they're all old. They're all tied back to IT operations. So, if you run IT operations, everybody I've got into security and pulled directly out of IT ops, and you can teach them security, easily. It needed, I think it was a lot harder to do the opposite, security IT ops. Because a security person, I mean, if you're doing an audit of cloud infrastructure, you have to have an infrastructure background. You can't go in, you get a certificate in cybersecurity, they're not gonna teach you anything about the basics, nuts and bolts of how cloud computing works. So, if you want a security person that's gonna play that role, you gotta get them out of IT, and you really can't do the other way, because, it just usually doesn't work. So, and then the other thing is, how do you package a role in cybersecurity? Because I think what happens is a lot of companies, they're looking, they'll go down to 853, and each one of those will demand a job definition. But most of the time, each one of those job definitions is not fat enough to really create a full-time role. I mean, there are some, but a lot of them, you have to what I would do is take 6 of those related sort of requirements, formulate one job, and teach them on a staff, do 6 or 7 or 8 of those tasks, and that would become a full-time job, and then build sort of a rotation through all aspects of 853. So at the end of 2 or 3 year period, a person that worked on my team would have that very broad experience, and then help them rise off of that. So I don't know if that's my anecdotal evidence. It's weird looking around for a job myself in the lab, and it's just departed for 2 to 3 weeks now. And it's there seems like there's 1,000 jobs out there, but once again, if you're in one specific role, there really aren't 1,000 jobs out there. There's going to be very, for me as a CISO and somebody that has extensive cloud experience, there's not 1,000 jobs for me out there. There's a narrow number of jobs out in niche. Yeah, it's more niche. So it's like I hear that, there's only jobs in cybersecurity. Well, if you break it down, there aren't all those jobs in cybersecurity. There's jobs in certain compliance roles, there's jobs in certain analyst roles, DR. There's so many parts of IT and so many parts of security. I think people made that point where you're being killed by the detail. Like if you're talking to a high school student, or somebody coming out of college, and you're like cybersecurity. Yeah, it's like to that person, that could mean like a million different things. Or they just, on the other way, they'll just look at it as one general thing. I'm going to be a cybersecurity person. What does that mean? I don't know. But so, anyways, you guys, have a tough nut to crack. I didn't realize we were that far behind in positions, and it sounds like you guys are looking mostly for like generalists, right? Like beginning. All 3 of you. I mean, you're looking for
Our training is for A+ certifications and N+.
Oh, so it's very specific.
Very, yeah.
Okay.
Ours is typically not. We're typically looking for folks 10+ years experience. In addition to a wrinkle is that working specifically with Navy application systems and networks. So someone that can wear those multiple hats. It can be a challenge for sure. We try to open it up to the government and see how we can bring in entry level talent, but the metaphor I make is, the government being our client and us being consultants is there's not a lot of appetite for on the job training, right? They expect their person to show up day one, get the job done. If your cabinet guy shows up to do the cabinets and, well, how do I do the cabinets? You're probably not gonna be happy, right?
So are all these positions, because it sounds like the conundrum is San Diego, I may have heard that from all 3 of you, but majority of people I hire, even though we're a San Diego based firm, I just had virtual. I mean, during COVID, in San Diego, so it's 90% of people I hire, which is sort of anywhere. If I didn't have a CONUS requirement from my contracts, I'd be hiring them in Portugal.
Yeah.
Brazil.
Indus is totally flexible and supportive of work-life balance and flexibility. It's more of if the government is requiring that the person is sitting in a certain market, we have to adhere to that for the contract. So that's the challenge is we're open to hire from anywhere, but they want the seat here. So if someone, even if it's a remote role, if something happened and they needed a meeting, they don't want to pay for someone to travel from DC or wherever. They want someone to be able to come into the office.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I just want to note really quick, I'm with EDC. The shortage although it is very drastic for cyber, there's a lot of shortages in So you look at anywhere from skilled trades and, and beyond across the spectrum, we're seeing massive shortages. So it's just indicative of something going on with our society right now, population increase. And in regionally, people leaving the region, or just different interests. So it's not just cybersecurity that we're seeing it, it's just, it's more imperative, I would say, here.
How are we doing online?
Yeah, we do have one question from online for Joey.
Time check too.
What's that?
Could we get a time check? Where are we at?
We're at 1:10
Okay,
right now,
I'm good,
so,
thank you.
yeah, I figured to.
Sounds good.
Joey, does, and if it applies to, anybody else on the panel, does Indus offer any kind of apprenticeship slash internship program for aspiring governance, risk, and compliance professionals looking to make a career transition? If not currently offered, is this something that, Indus would consider in the near future?
Yeah, great question. We don't have a formal internship program right now, and the reason for that being, oh, that's not true. We have internships at our corporate office, however, for something specific where they're looking for a career in cyber like that. All of our folks, I work on our overhead team. We have 500 employees. We only have about 30 or 40 that actually work for the corporate team. So all of our folks actually have a customer that's supporting 8, 9, 10 hours a day, whatever that may be. So the reason that it's difficult to have internships where they're actually following a skilled SME is day in and day out, they're fielding calls from their customers. There's not a lot of time for them to transition and then, train someone up. So in the future, it absolutely is something that we're looking to get into for transitioning veterans. We're looking to get Skill Bridge approved as well, so that folks that are transitioning out of the Navy or any of the forces can actually come on and do, it's an awesome program, a 6-month internship paid for by that branch where they're actually just studying up. They just show up and learn. It's awesome. I'd like to get something, but I'm hoping it's probably going to need us to get a little bit bigger so I can make the case to my financial folks so that I need a budget for something like that, or we can put something on. Yeah, definitely. So, not now, but hopefully soon.
Okay, awesome.
I can add to that. I mentioned earlier, Sharp Healthcare, is looking to implement something like that, an apprenticeship program. But like I said, it's very uncommon to have something like that in the tech field compared to something like skilled trades. So, I've talked to them and they said it's a lot of HR issues. And so something like that is it's difficult to implement, but it's definitely possible.
My comment would be, always go back to your training provider. Who are you training with and what can the school do for you, right? So sometimes schools have opportunities for those types of positions, like you would hear about cyber hire through the school, right? You wouldn't hear it from, so that's how it's important to just connect with your school, who you're receiving your training, and see what the opportunities you can get from there.
Gotcha. Cool. Does anybody else have any other questions? If not, I think we're good. Just want to say thank you to everybody for just sharing your experience, and I know we're all trying to help play it forward as best as we can within the community in which we live. So any way that we can do that from that side of the table looking this way, as well as this side, everybody looking that way. So, well, but no, thank you very much, very much.